it's not a people problem. A lot of times it's a process problem. It's a clarity problem. They don't know what's expected of them. It's hard to read the label when you're stuck inside the bottle, right? And so when you don't have that clarity in terms of where you're going and what's most important right now, you don't really have good measures in place to know whether or not you're on track to get to that endpoint, then that's oftentimes when you get stuck and you get frustrated and you blame people. And that's when you might benefit from a COO.
Attention marketers and entrepreneurs, this is Valuetizing, the place where we talk about scaling brands worth promoting. If you're a mission-driven entrepreneur obsessed with creating, scaling, and exiting multi-million-dollar brands, this is for you. My name is Santiago Phoenix, and I am a business growth consultant, online marketer, and investor. I have helped more than 100 7- and 8-figure founders increase profits, claim their time back, and transform the world. Now it's your turn. Welcome to the show.
Hello and welcome to Valuetizing. My guest today is Jeff Provost, a fractional chief operating officer, experienced leader, and founder of Key Performance Integrators. Jeff helps visionary CEOs create the systems and teams that allow them to keep growing their business without having to constantly be putting out fires. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Santiago.
It's great to have you here because what you do, I think, is not very well known. It's not as known as it should be because it's something very important. So can you explain us, the business owner who might be listening to this, what does a COO does?
Yeah, sure. So again, thank you for having me, Jeff Provost with Key Performance Integrators. So what we do is we provide executive level talent, COO, things like that on a part-time or fractional basis. And we're really focused on helping growth-focused business owners. So the typical business owners that come to us, and not just us, but anyone that is in the fractional COO space, oftentimes they're just not getting the results that they want from their business. So their teams are often inefficient, they're stretched thin, they're usually struggling with accountability. They have a hard time both holding themselves accountable to doing the things that they know they need to do to grow their business, as well as, when their teams aren't delivering on their commitments, they struggle with how to deal with that in an effective and productive way. A lot of times they're spending a lot of energy firefighting and getting, they often tell us they feel like they're pulled back into the minutia of the business when they really want to be focused on kind of the big strategic initiatives and things like that. So that's the typical problems that they're having, is just kind of that general lack of, they just know that they're destined for greatness and that they can be better than they are, and they're struggling to make that happen on their own. And so a lot of times, a COO can be a different type of role depending on the company. But at the core, what my definition of a COO is anyway, is someone who can kind of partner with the visionary CEO or owner and can help to take that vision and translate it into the rest of the business. So wherever they want to go, wherever their goals are, the job of the COO is to bring that to life throughout the business. And oftentimes that means you need to build a leadership team and have multiple people that are responsible for different areas and things like that. And a big function of the COO role is to make sure that leadership team is working cohesively together, that they've got clarity in terms of what they're being held accountable to, what their job is, what they need to deliver, and make sure that they have the support they need in order to kind of deliver on their commitments and the results. And so that's a big piece of the COO role, is kind of overseeing and leading that leadership team.
So these business owners, they started their business, they were growing, and they're kind of stuck, right? They're stuck. And what would you say, why does that happen? Because it sounds very familiar.
Yeah. And there's a million reasons why. Oftentimes, they're so busy just kind of working, and it's the age-old working in the business, not on the business, and things like that. But another colleague said something today, and it kind of stuck with me. He said it's hard to read the label when you're stuck inside the bottle, right? So if you're it's hard to see things for what they are when you're just so busy doing everything you have to do in order to keep moving forward, right? And so it's tough to kind of take a step back and to look objectively at the business and be able to see what's working and what's not working. And so I think anytime you bring in an outside person into a business, whether it be a part-time, fractional, full-time, whatever, anytime you bring in someone new, I think you get the benefits of kind of an outside, fresh perspective on things. Mm-hmm. And, you help to see what's really happening, what's really holding you back. Oftentimes, a lot of the business owners that we've worked with will it's quick and easy to blame people. So they'll say, well, so-and-so should know that, so-and-so should be able to do that. They're not able to deliver and whatever. And a lot of times what we find is it's not a people problem. A lot of times it's a process problem. It's a clarity problem. They don't know what's expected of them. There's no measures for, how they're being held accountable and what no definition of what good looks like for any particular role and things like that. And so when you don't have that clarity in terms of where you're going and what's most important right now, you don't really have good measures in place to know whether or not you're on track to get to that endpoint, then that's oftentimes when you get stuck and you get frustrated and you blame people. And that's when you might benefit from a COO.
So you also help them with that vision?
Yep. So many times they have the vision, right? They know exactly what they want to do and where they want to go and what they want to be when they grow up and things like that, right? They're the visionary, right? So we're not trying to come in and bring the vision to them. What we're trying to do is say, let us understand that vision. Let us understand where do you want to be 3 years from now? Why do you want to do that thing? Do you want to build a lifestyle business? Do you want to sell this thing? Do you want to make a certain amount of money? Like, what is it that you want and why do you want that thing? And then let's start to, systematically put together all the pieces that need to be in place in order to bring that to life. So that means you need a team. That means you need, the right projects and bets that you're making that are going to help get you better than where you're at today. That means you need to look at your kind of structure and how, the team is set up. Sometimes you need to, really take a close look at people, make sure you've got the right people in the right roles and make sure that they're able to deliver what you need. You need to have really solid financials in place and understand the drivers of profits and make decisions based off of your financials, not just off of your gut or what it might be in your bank account at the moment and things like that. So all of those different pieces need to kind of come together in order to bring that vision to life. And that's a big part of what we do is help to kind of put that whole foundational structural piece in place.
So let's say, because I was thinking when you were mentioning that about my brother, let's say he comes to you and he is a business owner. He has had his business like for 7 years and he's very sales and networking oriented. So loves to network with people. He also loves like the technical part of his business because he's a mechanical engineer. And he that's what he does. And he's always complaining about his team, about clients not paying their invoices in time. And it feels like all these operational things keep him at a certain point. And he wants to get to the next level, but it's like there's nothing left in the tank for him to do that. Where would you get started with him, and what would be some key things that he might want to consider?
Yep. So I think the way that we approach things is really 3 pieces. So first, it's all about providing that fresh perspective. So kind of assessing where things are at today. So if he's struggling with the team, What is it about the team that he's struggling with? Where is he getting frustrated? Let's plug in side by side with those folks, and let's shadow with them, and let's watch what they're doing, and let's ask them questions about why they're doing this thing, and what do they need to be successful, and what would make their life easier, and how could their work be more efficient, and things like that. Let's look at their tech stack, because a lot of times the work that we're doing is a function of the technology we're using, right? Do they have the right technology in place? Do they know how to use it? Are they using it to the fullest extent possible, right? Oftentimes, especially, it's really easy to pull the trigger and make an investment in some technology product. And, I've multiple times where people are like, yeah, I bought, this great CRM system, but my sales haven't improved, right? Well, that's the system is not the answer, right? The answer is in your process. The answer is in your people. The answer is in, the way that you're thinking about pricing your products and services and things like that, right? So it's not just about the system, but you need to understand how they're using the system and make sure that the system is working for them. And so a big part of it is that fresh perspective and kind of that assessment piece, right? So then once you identify what those, what's holding them back and preventing them, then we really like to get hands-on and drive change and implement things. So a lot of times that does mean that we might end up looking at, restructuring the organization. Maybe if he's frustrated with the people, has he taken enough time to get all of the information that's in his head out of his head and onto paper? Has he focused on training and coaching and delegating tasks? Maybe he has delegated tasks, but they don't have any sense for why this task is important and what the outcomes are, and why this thing matters and whatnot. So a lot of times it's kind of figuring out what those pieces are, and then really just getting hands-on and driving that change. So that might be creating a playbook, right? So here's how, if he's doing, what kind of engineering does he do?
Is working with construction companies to install smart systems. How would you say this? Like
smart home
automations for your home. Things like that.
Yep. Okay, great. So then, if he's doing, smart home automation and things like that, so he might be great at kind of designing and walking through the property and figuring out what they need and where, and presenting different options that they can select from and things like that. And then, what he might not be best at doing is actually spending his time ordering those materials, right? So, but is there a way for him to hand that off to someone else who, he can give them just enough and they can run with it, and maybe they kind of create the inventory of all the stuff they have to order, and then they just send it back over to him to take a look at and make sure that it's good and correct, and then they place an order so that you don't have problems with getting the wrong products or whatever. So it's all about finding what works best in that particular situation. There's no one size fits all. It's all unique and custom to each business and where they're at in their phase of growth and things like that. But it's really about, again, that fresh perspective, getting hands-on, figuring out what those things are, driving change. And then it's really about building that team. So making sure that everyone is crystal clear what's expected of them, why those things are expected, and how can we measure performance. So again, and I don't know what the problems are with the people, right? But let's say that it's it's a product quality thing, or they're ordering not enough materials or too much materials or the wrong materials or whatever. Then you might want to put something in place where you're kind of keeping track of the number of orders that are submitted without errors, right? And you want to have a 90% success rate or something. So 9 out of every 10 orders should be error-free, right? So there's different ways that you can kind of measure things that are really simple, but make it clear for people, order quality is important. And, therefore we're going to measure this. You need to be at 90% or better. And if not, then we're going to have a performance conversation. We're going to understand what it is that's preventing you from meeting this objective consistently, and make sure that you have all the tools you need to be successful. And if you're not able to meet these expectations, then maybe this isn't the right place for you. But let's have a productive conversation about that and ground that in facts as opposed to emotion of this person's no good. So
that's such a key point. Yeah. But do you ever find clients or business owners struggle to delegate because it's giving up power, right?
mm-hmm.
Do
Yep.
you
So
work on that, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, all the time. It's hard because a lot of times we are working with that, that owner operator, that, the person who's great at what they do, and truly no one else can do it as good as they can, right? So your brother, there's pieces that no one else could do what he does, right? But what else is he doing and spending his time on that's preventing him from spending the time on the things that he really loves, right? And so we do a lot of work with a operating system called the Entrepreneurial Operating System, or EOS. And so one of the tools that's in EOS is called Delegate and Elevate. And so what we'll often do is we'll have a business owner kind of go through that process and that tool. And so there's really just a couple of steps in it. So you want to kind of take a look at, like, okay, what's your, how many hours per week do you want to work? Some business owners only want to work 20 hours. Some people are comfortable working 60 hours, right? And what is your, what's your kind of max time that you want to work? And then, when you look at all of the things that you have to do, how much time do all of those things take? And it doesn't have to be perfect, but just best guess. Like, how much time do you spend on selling, on implementing, on, doing administrative work, on doing your finances, on networking and business development and marketing and blah, blah, blah. Like, how much time are you spending on all these different things? And then when you look at those two things, you can see, like, are you over capacity? So if you only want to work 20 hours a week, but you're spending 40 hours doing all this stuff, then something's got to give, right? So a lot of times, even if they're reluctant to give up things, when you start to break it down into something that's much more manageable and say, look, you can continue to work twice as much as you want to, but it's not sustainable and you're going to continue to be stuck here. So unless and until we kind of figure out what those things that we can carve out are, then you're going to continue to be stuck. That's your choice, right? So we hope you make the right choice, and you want to figure out how to take some of these things off your plate. So we'll kind of guide them through that process and help them understand that. So then it's really about listing, like, for like a week or 2 weeks, even sometimes, just literally list what you're spending your time on, like the actual time. I spent this amount of time on emails. I spent this amount of time on meetings, on doing invoicing, on whatever, right? List out all of the things that you're doing every day. And then the power in this is now you've got this list. So now it's not just theoretical. Here's how much time I spent doing all of these things. And then you go through and you just look at, what are things that you love doing? And so you basically put it into different quadrants. So these are things that I love doing and I'm good at. These are things I like doing and I'm good at. These are things I don't like doing and I'm not good at. And so once you have all this list of things, and now you put it into buckets of things that you love and you like and you don't like and you're good and you're not good and whatever, now it becomes pretty clear and you know how much time you're spending on them. Okay, of all of this stuff that I'm spending time on, what don't I like that I could potentially give to someone else, right? And so that helps you to kind of frame it up and figure out what to delegate. And then it's a matter of saying, okay, now what do I have to do, right? So how can I take this thing that I whether I'm good at it or not, right? How do I take this thing and teach someone else to do it? What do I need to do? I need to document it. I need to train them. I need to, coach them. I need to bring them with me to do the next install and see how I do it. And then I need to have them do the next install, and I'm going to watch them and I'm going to give them feedback, and I'm going to, make sure that they're doing it and meeting my expectations. And maybe I do that for a while until I feel confident that they can do it on their own, but then I still need some way to check it. So maybe I'm just inspecting it at the end instead of doing it throughout the whole time with them when I'm kind of delegating. So it's that awareness, that identification, and then the process that it takes to effectively teach someone else how to do it.
Are you looking for ways to grow your business faster? I have created a free masterclass that explains the 5 levels of exit every entrepreneur must go through. And by the way, selling your company is only one of them. The 8 biggest reasons why businesses get stuck and fail and how to avoid them. And a proven framework to turn your business into an asset so you can achieve faster profits and limitless impact with less stress and overwhelm in the process. If you would like to turn your small or medium-sized business into a valuable, sellable enterprise, this class is definitely for you. Just go to myplantoscale.com to get access now. Now, back to the show.
That's great. I like how you have like a process that seems applicable to every type of business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. And that's the thing, like every business is obviously different. And even businesses in the same industry, everyone is unique and special in their own way and has their own little way of doing things and whatever. But at the core, right, every business is, doing they're serving customers or clients. They need to make sure that they're pricing properly. They need to make sure that they can deliver consistently. They need to make sure that they're selling and marketing and doing finances and things like that, right? And so all of that comes back to processes. All of those processes need to be delivered by people. You've got technology that helps enable these things to happen. And those are things that are true in every single business. So we're not, our team collectively, we've got experience in a variety of different industries, a variety of different stages of companies. We're all experienced, executives, serving in leadership roles and things like that. But a lot of this stuff, the industry doesn't matter because the problems are the same. How do I scale? How do I get this stuff out of my head and teach someone else how to do it? How do I hold someone accountable without making them quit? How do I automate things? How do I make things more efficient? All of those things are true in every single business.
That's fascinating. Yeah. And can you walk us a little bit about through EOS and how did you first got introduced to this system?
Yeah, so prior to starting KPI, I was a full-time chief operating officer and sat in what's called the integrator seat within the EOS framework at my last company. So I was a full-time COO integrator for about 4 years and really just kind of fell in love with the tools and the structure and the processes and things like that. And so when I ventured out onto my own, I really wanted to continue to work with companies that see the value in kind of putting some type of an operating system in place. And tends to be, very growth oriented business leaders and owners and things like that. The visionary that they're not just, they're not kind of complacent with where they're at. They want to grow. They want bigger, they want more, and they want some help. And so I feel like EOS is a great way to help those folks bring that vision to life.
And so you got introduced. Yeah, that was part of your position. That's where you found out about EOS.
Yep. At my last company.
But EOS is a huge system, like organization, right?
It is, yeah. Yep. So there's it's a worldwide organization, and there's hundreds of EOS implementers out there that are actually they're part of the EOS business, and they all own their own business. It's actually a franchise, but they kind of implement EOS into companies. So they train people on the systems and support them and things like that, and then there's 2 key roles within EOS. One is the visionary, who tends to be the CEO, big picture, big ideas, big relationships, kind of champion of the culture, things like that. And then the other role is the integrator, who tends to be the COO or second in command, who's really kind of responsible for leading and managing and holding the leadership team accountable to being kind of that right hand person to the visionary to bring their vision to life throughout the organization, to really kind of drive change, to make sure that picking the right projects, making sure you've got good KPIs and measures in place to know that things are working, and so that's what we do.
Yeah. And in your own business, are you both the visionary and the integrator, or do you find you have to work with an integrator yourself?
So I find myself doing both, but I have had an integrator that was working with me in the past. And I will definitely have an integrator again in the not so distant future. It is hard to do both. And I know firsthand, at my core, I'm an integrator, but when I'm thinking about my own business, I'm very much a visionary. And so I have to remind myself at times even to do the things that I do for clients for me, right? And, so it's a hard thing to do, to kind of wear both hats and to be coming up with all the ideas of where you want to go and what you want to do, and being the one to kind of bring them to life in the organization and do your regular day job too, and whatever, right? So it's a lot to do both.
Yeah, I can imagine. And in the EOS system, I've heard repeatedly this word traction.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean when you achieve traction?
Yeah, so traction is actually so EOS was started by a person named Gino Wickman, and he wrote a book called Traction. And so Traction is it's really it's kind of the book that lays out for everyone what what EOS is and what it would look like if you were to think about putting into your business. So Traction and EOS are used kind of interchangeably. A lot of people think of EOS as Traction and think of Traction as EOS. So Traction is what kind of popularized it with the book. Now, in general terms, when you think about what is Traction, so EOS has 6 key components that are kind of that make up the whole operating system and the framework. And back to the point earlier about not necessarily industries or anything like that. The 6 key components that EOS talks about that are part of every business is vision. So making sure that you've got a clear vision of where you're going, that you've got data. So you've got to have good kind of measurable data in place to know that you're on a path to achieving that vision. Process, so making sure that you've got things documented, making sure that people know what's expected of them, and you've got clarity. People, making sure you've got the right people in the right seats that can kind of deliver on all this stuff. They also have this concept of issues, so really focusing on making sure we understand the issues that are happening in the business and we kind of solve them and get to the root cause of them. And Traction really is it's kind of all the stuff that happens like day to day, week to week, month to month that makes all these other things possible. So Traction is really it's one of the 6 key components, and it's about, in EOS they call them rocks, but it's basically projects. So every 90 days you choose the most important projects or rocks that you're going to undertake as a company, and that ideally align with like your vision and where you want to go and what you're building for the future. So it could be things like big transformational things like implementing a brand new sales process or implementing a new ERP system or whatever the case may be. Or it could also be, just things that are important enough that you want to bring awareness to them and make sure that everyone knows that these things are happening. And it could be things like, delegating certain number of tasks. If everyone on the leadership team delegated one task to their teams, like, what would you be able to accomplish with that extra time, right? So it could be a lot of different things. So that's the concept of rocks. And then the meeting pulse is the other piece of Traction. So that EOS kind of prescribes a very structured leadership meeting process. So you meet weekly. It's a 90-minute meeting. It's the same time, same place every week. You've got the same agenda, and it's very structured, and you kind of go through this process. And so when you have all of these pieces coming together, you get a clear vision of where you want to go. You've got data that tells you that you're on pace to do that thing or not. You've got processes, you've got the right people, you're constantly identifying issues in the business. You're solving those issues in your weekly leadership meeting. You've got these big projects and rocks that are going to help to transform and help you evolve and do better. All of that stuff coming together is really what makes the end results possible and the achievement of your goals and things like that.
Yeah, sounds like super structure, which is exactly what a lot of entrepreneurs need, but they don't want to do. It doesn't come naturally.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. So, what made you make the leap and start your own company?
So I was previously at a company that was doing like outsourced bookkeeping and accounting and payroll, HR, tax, all for small businesses. And I loved it. I loved the clients that we were working with. I loved the value we were adding, and really helping them get a better handle on their finance and, be able to make decisions based off of good financials as opposed to their gut. But I felt like I was limited in terms of how much change I could drive with those clients. So, their financials are telling them that they're here, they want to be there. There's nothing that I can change in the financials that's going to get them there, right? It's all about what we're talking about here. It's about what is it that's preventing you from getting to that next level? And, and as a COO and kind of an operator and someone who loves getting hands-on and driving change, I just saw an opportunity to kind of serve that same client, but do it through an operations focused as opposed to just strictly through a finance focus. So that's what made me take that kind of entrepreneurial leap of faith and venture out on my own, and then got some traction early on, and was able to bring additional people onto the team, and now we're up to 5 people, and we're continuing to add more and find new ways to kind of add value to our clients and having a ton of fun.
What was it hard to go all into your own company versus maybe doing it on the side? I don't know.
It was hard and it was terrifying because you leave the security of a W-2 job and a steady paycheck and things like that, and now everything is on you to produce and to provide. I've got a family. I've got financial obligations I need to meet, and so the pressure is big, right? And so it was very hard. But I feel like I'd been running other people's businesses, so I felt very competent and capable of running my own. But there's no substitute for experience. So until you've done it on your own, it's hard to imagine what it's really like. You know what I mean? So it's a lot. It is, but it's very rewarding, and I love our purpose. I love working with our small business clients and really helping them achieve their goals and grow their business. And we've had some fantastic results with the clients that we're working with, and really transforming their businesses. And many times that translates into their personal lives as well. They're getting more time with their families. They're less stressed about things because they're able to delegate, and they're able to rely on their team to do more and better and things like that. So I just love the impact that we can make and the difference that we can make in small business owners and these entrepreneurial, leaders' lives.
I love that. Would you say, what would you say is your why?
So my why is really all about, I've always been a very naturally helpful person, and I just love helping other people to achieve their goals at the end of the day. And I love to kind of problem solve and talk about what's working and what's not working, and collaborate and share ideas and experiences and things like that. So it's really all about, helping business owners achieve their goals and grow their business.
Yeah. At the end of the day, business owners are the drivers of the economy. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yep, there's no question.
So that's great. And if someone wants to know more about what you do, how you can help them, what would be the next step or the first step?
Yeah. Anyone's always free to kind of reach out on LinkedIn or so you can visit our website. It's usekpi.com. So we're always looking to have conversations with people and just talk about what's going on in the business and see if we might be a resource. One of our core values is being resourceful. So very much kind of abundance minded, and if we can't be a resource, we'll gladly refer you to someone else who can, based on your needs. If we don't think we could be a good fit, we've got great networks of people that we work with, other outsourced folks and just lots of people in our networks that we can kind of tap into to help and solve problems. So always love having those conversations.
And how do you typically work with clients? Is it like a year-long program, or how is it?
Yeah, everything we do is month to month. So it's really my belief and our belief is that if we can't add value, then you just shouldn't pay us anymore. And so it's that simple. So if we're not able to meet your needs, or things change and you can't afford it or whatever, right, then that's fine. So everything is month to month, no long-term contracts. Typically our engagements typically end up being somewhere between 5 and 10 hours a week on average. And everything we do is fixed fee. We ask clients to pay in advance for services. So we try to avoid going down like the hourly path. We don't want to be in the collections business. We're trading our kind of experience and knowledge that we've accumulated over decades for time, right? And so we don't want to be in the business of chasing down money and things like that. So that's why we bill in advance, and it's just fixed fee, so it's very predictable, and you know exactly what you're going to pay and what you're going to get, and try to make it really simple.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Jeff. It was super interesting, and I think this is very key, like you were saying, not only to grow your business, but to really enhance your quality of life and be able to reap the rewards of all the work that you've put behind the business.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Santiago. I really appreciate you having me on today, and appreciate everything you're doing for your audience as well.
If you enjoyed the show, hit the share button and send it over to one fellow marketer or entrepreneur. We work hard to make sure they'll thank you for it. Also, to get featured on the show, go to valuetizing.com and apply to become our next guest. Until next time, keep valuetizing.